Welcome to this edition of Peak Performance Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Thor Conklin, and I got to tell you, we have a badass in the studio today. Thom King, he is the CEO and founder of Icon Food Science, previously known as Steviva Brands. You know the company. In addition to being a CEO, he's also a personal development guru and as a self-confessed biohacker expert as well. So, man, I am there are so many topics here. We could do about 5 or 6 hours on this stuff, but I want to dive first into the entrepreneurship side of it because so many of the listeners want to hear from successful entrepreneurs, where their journey was, how did they get to where they are, and what I like to point out is some of the things that really worked well, some of the mistakes that you've made in the past. Wish you had not done those, and in hindsight, if you had to do it all over again. But I know you've got some thoughts on what makes successful entrepreneurship work.
I do. Thanks, Thor. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast too. I absolutely appreciate it. So I would say understanding your why. I mean, that's going to be your probably your greatest pathway, if you will, to success as an entrepreneur, is understand why you're doing what you're doing. And I've always had, that's not true. I haven't always had the philosophy of, doing good to do well. I think back when I was younger and a lot less mature, it was all about chasing the money, like, hey, we can make a bunch of money doing this and that and everything else. But what I found over the years is that sort of mentality of trying to get rich quick or, trying to make a quick buck on something, doesn't have a lot of longevity, and it also doesn't have as much satisfaction. Yeah. I think understanding your why, like why you're doing something, and then leaning into doing something that does good, is a great pathway to doing well.
Well, let's start with why Steviva Brands.
That's a good question. So, when I was living in Arizona and at the time, and my whole life it has been a battle of weight. So and it's not extreme weight, but it's like my weight can go up 35 pounds and go down 35 pounds, and that's not a super healthy cycle. But I've always had issues with sugar.
Me too. Guilty.
Like a sugar addict. Like when I was a kid, I would literally take a bag of M&Ms and put it into a can of Pepsi, because Pepsi just wasn't quite sweet enough to give me enough of a sugar rush. And so I was really, really, really hooked on sugar. And so when I moved to Arizona and, became a lot more sort of health conscious about what I was eating, and I ran into a gentleman whose name was Jim May, and he had just come back from Paraguay, and he had like these various jars of herbs and herbal extracts, and he offered me one, and he's like, you should try this one, and it was like this green paste, and I tasted it, and it was pretty bitter and had a very sort of herbal taste to it, but it was really, really sweet, like 25 times sweeter than sugar. And that was sort of the genesis of my company right there, because when I tasted it, I was like, if somebody was able to, extract these sweet constituents out of the leaf, you could have something that could compete with NutraSweet or saccharin, but was a natural version that didn't affect, that wasn't chemically based. And didn't affect people's blood sugar levels. And that was the beginning of my journey, because then I was on a quest to be able to naturally extract those sweet constituents out of those leaves using just hot water.
And how does this fit into keto, or does it fit into keto?
Yeah, it totally fits into keto. So, I've also dabbled in keto. Like I dabbled in keto back when it was referred to as Atkins, and Atkins is kind of like a super high protein version of keto, but both of them restrict carbs and both of them restrict sugars. So it weaved into keto quite well. And, one of the things about keto is definitely cutting out, high glycemic carbohydrates. And, I would consider sugar to be one of those high glycemic carbohydrates.
And what does stevia do as far as the blood sugar? We all know what happens when you introduce sugar into the bloodstream.
Sure.
What's the effects of stevia? How does that differ?
There's no effects, and I've been interviewed by a few people that have told me that they'd heard rumors of stevia affecting blood sugar levels through sort of a brain chemistry reaction. Like your body thinks it's getting sugar, and so it releases insulin. But I've done numerous tests, like hundreds of tests, where I've consumed stevia and other natural non-nutritive sweeteners. And it hasn't affected my blood sugar whatsoever. So from my perspective, and some people might just consider this anecdotal, but from my perspective, after doing keto and after measuring blood ketone levels and blood sugar levels, I found that stevia and monk fruit have no effect on blood sugar levels whatsoever.
So given all the things that we know sugar does to the body, we know that stevia is sweeter than sugar. Mm-hmm. Why hasn't the entire industry switched over to stevia? Why don't we have stevia, soft drinks, stevia? I mean, why hasn't sugar died and stevia has taken over the entire world?
That's a good question, and that it's definitely a rabbit hole too. I mean, the sugar industry is subsidized, so I think that's part of it. They're guaranteed a certain amount for their crops or for their compounds. So it's not really a level playing field. So a lot of times they can sell it below their cost. And I think manufacturers jump on that opportunity because sugar makes an amazing filler. So like if you could take ketchup, for instance, if you look back, 100 years ago and the recipe for ketchup, the first ingredient was tomatoes. Now, when you look at the first ingredient on ketchup, it's either high fructose corn syrup or sugar. And so the fact is, sugar is way cheaper than tomato paste, by far. I mean, sugar is super cheap. And if you just drop in sugar, it makes up that bulk, and if you counteract it with some salt, you basically now have salt, sugar, you add some flavor to it, and you've got just about any sort of cheap off-the-shelf condiment, ketchup, or whatever product.
Talk to us a little bit about the pricing. So let's take the ketchup bottle, for example. So we have a ketchup bottle that sells for $1. Right. It has high fructose corn syrup in it. Mm-hmm. If we were to make that same product, so it's $1 there. If we were to make that same product with stevia, what are we looking at? What would that dollar cost of that ketchup bottle go to?
I would say it'd cost $1.50. So, I mean, the stevia is about anywhere from 200 to 300 times sweeter than sugar. So it's a high intensity sweetener. So a little bit goes a long way. So when you're making, let's say, ketchup in this instance, when you're making ketchup, and now you've pulled out all of the sugar and you've replaced it with something that's 250 times sweeter than what you just replaced, you're going to lose a ton of volume. Yeah. So just pulling sugar out of ketchup and replacing it with stevia isn't 100% of the option. Like you have to, add other compounds that will create mouthfeel, like a viscosity, or, at least, create that bulk. So this is where things can get a little expensive, because if you've got sugar and, the commodity price of sugar right now is around 15 cents a pound, that's really cheap. Like for 15 cents, you can have a pound of just about anything. Once you've added that much sugar to it. So, I mean, in our case, the amount that you would add to say ketchup is, probably about 15% of 12% of 12 to 15% of the total solution. So yeah, I would say that definitely $1.50. If that was your cost of goods sold on your barbecue sauce or your ketchup, now you're looking at, $2.50. So it increases it, but then, it's also the quality of the food. So,
Makes sense.
That's where consumers need to, am I going to spend a little bit more to get something that, that's not going to make me fat?
Well, what's been the 1999? I didn't really hear stevia until I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I don't. So very young as far as the marketplace really knowing it. What was the growth like? I mean, was this something that was just kind of moving along, and then all of a sudden you had like a hockey stick spike to it? What's been the growth trajectory? Because I think so many entrepreneurs think that it ought to look like this, just nice little angle from the left-hand side of the graph going straight up, and everything is just beautiful.
No, it really wasn't like that at all. I would say that number one, finding a company that could do the extraction process according to my specifications was a 2-year journey. So like I had a daytime job to support that. And I started in 1999 with this, and from 1999 until 2008, the FDA had stevia sequestered to only a dietary supplement. So you couldn't really use stevia as a food additive until 2008. And in 2008, it was Cargill, which is a really, really large food manufacturer, that lobbied the FDA to make stevia GRAS status, which is GRAS, which stands for generally regarded as safe. So in 2008, the FDA made some grades of stevia GRAS status, generally regarded as safe, and that is when things went, hockey stick. Until then, it was like, going into health food stores and convincing them that that our stevia would sell, and it was a big time hustle and grind.
So I love that you arrived right when the recession started.
Yeah, I've had my ass kicked. I mean, I've had my ass kicked super, super hard. And, the thing is, like, I think that when you have your ass kicked like that, you can like go to the corner and sort of whimper about it. Or you can, pick yourself up off the ground, dust yourself off, and re-engage. And, I don't know, when I look back on the trials and tribulations of being an entrepreneur, I think that I'm most grateful for when I got knocked on my ass, because that is when I learned to stop screwing up.
Yeah, absolutely.
As much.
Yeah, I have a list. Literally, I have a list of the 7 companies that I started. One I purchased, 5 I started, and all the lessons that I learned. I wanted to write them down because I didn't want to repeat them again, because I found myself sometimes repeating. I was like, wait a second, I think this is very similar to the last one. Why don't I just write these down? And then I actually went back, and even all the jobs that I had, even as a kid, I wrote down all the lessons, all the lessons that didn't go exactly the way I wanted them to, and then some of the learnings and the things that actually did go the way I wanted them to. I think history is a good teacher. I did not want to repeat some of the history, so.
Yeah, and I find myself repeating some of the history myself. I journal every single day. It's what sort of keeps me grounded and sane. Yeah. So, I fill out an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper every single day, like it was a religion. And through it, I use that as sort of a vehicle to reflect on, what I've, the mistakes that I've made, the lessons that I've learned, and trying to keep a attitude of gratitude while going through it all.
Yeah. I don't do it every single day, but this podcast was born out of books that I kept life lessons and interesting facts and things that I learned along the way. And I originally wanted to pass them along to my kids, and I realized, I was like, wait a sec, they're probably not even going to read the stuff. And if I actually get it out there on the internet, actually some people might listen to it and it'll be there forever. So that's actually how this started. Where do you see this going? I mean, so you're right in the infancy of this entire brand. what do you see the upside? Is this $1 billion market? What's the where do you see it
I
going?
think it's a multi-billion-dollar market. I mean, when you look at, sugar and the sugar industry and really how, sugar is being vilified right now. I mean, and everywhere you look, I mean, there's an article about, sugar causing cancer and sugar, being solely responsible for metabolic disease. And, and I think that, I think in a lot of cases, that's a fair assessment, of sugar and its impact. But I think it goes deeper than that. I think that there's other factors like when you look at sugar and how it's metabolized in the body. So where I think it's going is I think that people are going to continue to, peel away the layers, of how sugar impacts their lives. I think people will continue to look for natural, low sugar options. And I see that growing. And I know for us as a company, sweeteners, sweeteners are what we do. It's our business. And we're always looking for, different ways that we can, get our sweeteners into a variety of different products. And one thing that we jumped into about a year and a half ago was chocolate chips. So, we looked at the frozen dessert market and the low sugar cookie market and protein bars, and saw that a lot of the inclusions like chocolate chips where a lot of the sugar was coming from. So about a year and a half, we moved into chocolate chips, and have moved over 2 million pounds of chocolate chips since then, which was pretty impressive. And now we're expanding our line of inclusions, to include, like mini marshmallows, as well as white chocolate chips and sprinkles and other type of novel inclusions that cookie companies, bake mix companies, bar companies, frozen dessert companies can all start using and driving down, the added sugars that they would get from it, but then adding like texture and mouthfeel and flavor.
Nice. So do you actually manufacture the chocolate chips, or do you just sell the stevia that goes into them?
That's a really good question. So we hold the recipe and we supply the sweetener for it, but a lot of our inclusions now we're getting co-manufactured by companies that know what they're doing when it comes to chocolate.
Nice. Somebody's going to come after you soon.
Good. Bring it. Let's see it.
No. I mean, in a good way. Someone's going to try to acquire you.
I know.
And they had it already.
Well, there's always been conversations, about that. And I mean, it's something that I'm, interested in, in exploring. But, I also, my blood runs through this company and my employees are like family to me. And if something like that were going to happen, it would have to be like the perfect fit. So short term, I'm not seeing anything like that on the horizon, but who knows, long term, maybe.
Yeah, you got a ways to go, and the valuation is only going to go up from here. But be prepared. Someone's going to offer you a boatload of money, and it's going to be a good day and a very challenging day when that occurs.
Sure.
But that's definitely coming. So, CEO of this company is only one thing that you do. You absolutely love the area of self-development, and I'm always talking with my clients. We're talking about this on the show all the time. Is who do I need to become to be the man or the woman that is going to take this organization to where I see the vision? And to do that, we need to grow. We need to expand. We need to become more. What are you doing? What's your secret sauce? I mean, you built an amazingly successful company. Not everyone can do that. Who did you need to become? What techniques and tactics did you use?
That's really great question. I mean, reading, absorbing, a lot of things that are inspirational, a lot of things that help me keep a positive mindset. Big fan of Zig Ziglar. I'm a huge fan of Tony Robbins, a huge fan of Tony Robbins. So I use those as sort of a springboard, but I would have to say also, like, I weave into it, things like the Daily Stoic, and Stoicism and the writings of like Marcus Aurelius. Those are the things that really keep me grounded and centered, if you will, because it's easy to get caught up in business, and it's easy to get caught up in the, in accumulation, like more money, more stuff. And, in the past year, I've really felt like I'm kind of moving away from that, in moving away from the whole concept of accumulation, and really, moving more into contribution and legacy. Like, what am I really doing to make the world a better place? What am I doing on a daily basis to try to make myself a better person? And I write about it every single day, like, what can I do today differently that that would get me closer to, to the person that I want to be, and what are the things that I'm willing to let go of? And
key.
I would
it's
say
always what let go of. It's not
that is the thing that really, that fires up my journaling process. It's like, what are the things, and it really ends up taking up about half of my journaling, is like, what are the things that I am willing to let go of that are holding me back? And that's such a powerful question, because you can peel away those layers, and it's like, well, I mean, I'm willing to let go of fear. And it's like, okay, so, what parts of fear am I, willing to let go of? Like fear of the aging process, and becoming weaker, and, and feeble, and then also just dealing with mortality too, like really, thinking about mortality, like thinking of, your life on this planet being limited. And while a lot of people get really terrified about that, for me, it just really enriches the time that I've got. Like, it's like, I have no time to spare. Like, I have no time to waste.
There's a little clock right there. You see it? There it is.
I've been watching it.
It's a clock. It's a countdown clock each month that I set, because it's like time is going.
It is.
You can't get it back.
You can't get it back. And so keeping yourself on track, meaning don't get involved with the petty, don't get involved with gossip, don't get involved in, in the 24-hour news cycle that's meant to distract us. Don't surf the web, looking for clickbait. It's like, keep yourself focused, keep yourself on task, and let go of the things that are holding you back, and lean into the things that are moving you forward. Like, self-acceptance. I mean, self-acceptance is a huge one. I mean, don't allow yourself to be held down, by self-limiting thoughts and behaviors that you've had in the past. And it's like, just face your crap, like face it and vanquish it and move on, and do not waste a single minute.
You mentioned a few moments ago about, some of the people you like to, that inspire you, Tony Robbins being one. I'm actually a Tony Robbins trainer.
Wow.
Go figure.
I'm honored.
Thank you. And I'm actually tomorrow morning, I actually get on a plane to go down to Business Mastery to teach with them.
Wow.
And now I want to make a distinction, because in that environment, and a lot of entrepreneurs are on this constant track of, let me learn more. And I'm always a big proponent of learning. But one of the things that you've been able to do, and all successful entrepreneurs have been able to do, is execute. I learned something, but I'm not spending all my time just learning. I'm actually going and I'm executing. What's your key to execution?
Well, in the words of Tony Robbins, massive action. It's like taking massive action. So, like when you're doing goal setting, and I'm huge about goal setting. I mean, a goal not written down is just a good intention.
Yeah.
And so if you really want to accomplish something, write down the outcome that you want to achieve, followed by an action plan. And those action plans have to have concise dates when you're going to get it done. Because if you don't have an action plan, then it's like sailing a ship without without a compass. It's a dream. You got nothing. So set an action plan and have absolute dates, hard dates that you're going to hit that.
And I love that part about massive action. And anytime you're taking massive action, there's one thing that you can always count on. And that is, some of the action that you take isn't going to work. we talk an awful lot about how I believe that failure is part of the success journey. Everything that we've ever done in life, whether it's walking or talking or eating, we didn't know how to do any of that. We failed miserably as infants on all of these things. And then one day we figured out how to tie our shoes. We figured out how to walk. We figured out all this. So many entrepreneurs, so many people in general have such a difficult time with failure. Any successful entrepreneur I know has embraced the idea of failure. It's just part of the process. How do you deal with it? Because I'm sure many of the things that you tried didn't work.
Oh, almost everything I tried didn't work.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that, you know, and I always,
thing did.
Yeah, I mean, and I always, you know, I always talk to, you know, startup companies about that. It's like, yeah, I have screwed up and failed far, far more than I've ever succeeded. Like, I just have. I mean, I think that that's the nature of being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
The beauty of it is, in the times that I succeeded, it completely, you know, wiped out the failure. But the failure was the biggest part of actually bringing me to success. Because if you don't, I mean, if you're not screwing up and you're not failing, you're not trying. And, you know, a friend of mine, you know, Tom Bilyeu, he was one of the founders of Quest Nutrition. He told me one time, he said, if you're not 100% terrified about your goal, then your goal's not big enough.
Yeah.
And so it's like, crash and burn, you know, but do it fast and get yourself up, dust yourself off, get up and figure out what you did wrong, pivot if you have to, into something else or a different way of doing things. And but the main thing is, like, you're going to fail. Yeah. And if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. So when you do fail, you know, get back in the game.
Yeah. I always like to say, crash and catch on fire. Just keep moving so you don't burn. Run, get up and start running. 100%. You're going to have to do something to extinguish the flames. Yeah, it's and failure not only, I think, teaches us how to succeed, but it can be the things that we need in order to succeed. You know, I had a manufacturing company that I purchased, couldn't figure out how to make a profit. Eventually had to just pull the plug on the whole thing. And I said, I need to learn some lessons here. And I learned the lessons. And the first company that I created after that was a profitability consulting company. And people were like, what got you into profitability consulting? I'm like, I couldn't figure out how to make a profit. I mean, it was a natural progression because I wanted to figure it out for myself. So I think, you know, look, we very rarely learn from our successes. We always learn from our failures. No one likes to go through them, but you know, when going through hell, just keep going. What's, you know, you're a very driven individual. What drives you? What's life about? Why are you doing it? Not going back to the company, but what's most important to you?
That's a really good question. I mean, the thing
I'm a Tony Robbins trainer, so I have a lot of great questions. It's actually one that Tony asks quite a bit. Yeah,
I would say the thing that drives me and the purpose behind everything that I'm doing. I mean, I constantly re-examine it because it seems to shift. You know, it used to, like I said, it used to be more about personal gain, like a better house, a better car, more money in the bank account and stuff like that. But really, I think the thing that drives me is being able to leverage what I'm doing now into something bigger that makes a bigger impact on people's lives, like a bigger, you know, positive impact on people's lives. Like right now, I mean, we work with a lot of sports nutrition companies, a lot of food manufacturers in the keto category that are making real differences in people's lives. Like we constantly are gathering, you know, success stories from people that have used our customers' brands, they used our brands, and it's amazing to see. And it's like amazing to see somebody lose 150 pounds. And it's amazing to see that impact that it has on that person, how they feel lighter, they feel more confident. And when somebody feels good about themselves, it's easier for them to help other people feel good about themselves. So when I see that impact that we have on it, it's really rewarding. But I would say the reason why I still do it and the reason why I still grind and still get up early in the morning, and go through, do this on a daily basis is I want something bigger. I want something to make people's lives better. I want a bigger impact.
Do you think anyone is cut out or could be cut out to be an entrepreneur?
Oof. My heart tells me yes. My head tells me no. So, so many times I've run into people that are like, oh my God, I'd love to have my own business. And I'm like, well, do it, start it. I don't even know where to start. And it's like, go make something and sell it to somebody, do something.
Watch a YouTube video. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many resources. Like when I look back to when I started my first business, when I was like 20, there wasn't the internet.
No.
And I had encyclopedias, and it's so weird. Like, I went to a thrift shop the other day, and they had like the full set of Britannica encyclopedias. And I was like, oh my God, I remember like lying in bed when I was a kid, looking at every single word and just being like, oh, wow, that's what this is. And I read the encyclopedia, and, when I look at how people have access to resources and information now, it's like, oh my God, if I would have had this like 30 years ago, I'd be a gazillionaire. Like, it's like there's so many shortcuts. And so like people that want to start their own business, start your own business. If it's in your heart, start your own business. But like I said, my heart says, oh yeah, anybody can do this. My head says you have to have self-discipline. You have to have resilience, to pick yourself up, off the ground. If you don't have those attributes, you have to develop them, or maybe give up on the idea of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone wants it or is interested in it. It's one of the first questions I always ask.
Right.
What do you want? And my follow-up question is, are you interested or are you committed? And they're like,
I like that.
Yeah, it's like, because everybody's interested. Everyone wants to lose weight. Everybody wants to be wealthy. Well, great. Are you committed to it? Are you willing to pay the price that it's going to take in order to achieve that?
Yeah, that's brilliant. That I'm holding that one. It's like commitment.
Stealing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Commitment is if you have a commitment to something, and if you're committed, you'll make it.
Yeah. One of the things that I work with very highly successful entrepreneurs, and across the board, one thing always comes up, and that is one of the keys. The most successful people that I work with have extraordinary teams. And the ones that are doing well but are struggling a little bit, they don't have the team that they need. They're not executing at the highest level. What are some of your keys on having your team execute at the highest level? What have you been able to do?
I would say have an environment that's collaborative. Like if you're not just pointing and, telling somebody to go do something, but you inspire them and empower them to be able to figure that stuff out on their own. And if you've got a team that feels like their voice is heard, and that they're part of a process that's bigger than themselves, they will do anything. They will run through walls for you. I think that if you're running a company, surround yourself by the very best people that you possibly can, because we're basically the sum of the 5 people closest to us. So it's like, determine your greatness by who you surround yourself with. And then when you surround yourself with those people, make sure that the process is collaborative. Make sure that it is, that it's a group effort and not just, one person, spewing what they want.
Yeah. It's funny. I was running a mastermind on Friday, and we were talking about teams. And I said, you have 4 choices for every team member. You can coach, mentor, ignore, or fire them. And unfortunately, most organizations just kind of put the people out there and say, here you go, and basically ignore them. And you're just setting them up for failure. very few companies really spend the time to coach and mentor and lead and develop. And you got to. You got to dig in with the team. And with your organization, I can tell right away, you have people that are passionate about the issues going on in health, in our society, around the world. And I think it would be a little bit easier, and correct me if I'm wrong, because there's such a clear defined vision and mission here. I think it gets a little harder when you have a law firm or a CPA firm. They're not changing lives. But I think going back to your point earlier, you've got to have a why of why does this business exist? What are we doing? How are we helping others? Even if it's just with their taxes. We're making the tax process easier for them. And you've got to have the team aligned with that. So that why I'm a big supporter of that. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And we revisit it on a monthly basis. So when we have our executive meetings, I mean, we always reaffirm why what we're doing makes sense.
Yeah.
And, everybody has a voice in it as well. And also, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm not sure that really makes me a great CEO. I think I'm like an okay CEO. I think I have like some really great sort of entrepreneurial skills, but my CEO, it's not anything I'm like super interested in because it is like basically herding cats. But I took a shift probably on my attitude about being the CEO maybe a year and a half ago, that it's not that these people are working for me. I work for them. So I'm their CEO. And so when they feel like that they can come to me, and express like, hey, I think that we're not going in the right direction with this particular thing, and I jump in and it's like, okay, well, let's fix it. Let's find a solution for this. I think that really sort of garners the loyalty as well.
Yeah. And I bet you have a great chief operating officer or number two.
Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah,
I think they're the key. They're the key too.
Yeah, my operation. Yeah, my operations guy is he's kind of hard to describe, but he's a beast. He's a beast, and he's a company hero.
Right. One thing they all have in common, and when they struggle, they don't have that strong. And you can get it up to a certain point. And you can grow a pretty fairly large organization without a strong COO or number two. But if they're weak, the entrepreneur's got to be in the middle of everything.
Right.
And like you said, entrepreneurs do not make great operations people.
No.
we just don't.
I discovered that a long time ago. Yeah. So it's like, I like making and being creative and, making business deals and stuff like that. But like, managing people and sorting people out, when they're having a dust up it's not my jam.
It's funny. My team still, I'll come up with something like, all right, we're going to do this. And they still ask the same question. Thor, is this going to work?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I know.
And they're still miffed by the idea that I have no idea. It's like, I have no idea. Yeah. So I've been asking all the questions. So I want to give you the last 2 minutes because we have only scratched the surface here. What wisdom do you have, whether it's a biohack, whether it's personal development, whether it's advice for startups? You got the last 2 minutes. Take it away.
Well, I would say I would say that these are new things that I learned. And one of the things that I learned is burnout is real. So if you're an entrepreneur, having a work-life balance is pretty critical. And I think that integrating things like meditation, making sure that you're getting plenty of rest. Like the main thing that I was doing was living on 4 hours of sleep, per night, and I just hit a wall. Now I'm focused on getting between 7 and 8 hours of high quality sleep. I meditate on a daily basis. I do as much yoga as I possibly can. Things that keep me grounded, things that keep me spiritually alive, if you will. Journaling. So these are probably not like it's probably not the advice that, an entrepreneur might think that they'd be getting out of another entrepreneur. But I think that having a balance lets you go back into the game with, with a certain level of fierceness, because you've rebuilt and you've grounded yourself and you've taken that moment, to show yourself self-love, if you will, like really taking care of yourself, refraining from bad habits, like drinking too much or smoking too much pot or eating high sugar foods, making sure that you have a clean diet, that you're hydrating, and then listening to your gut. I think that, those things are really more, I'd say, ethereal and maybe a little more on the spiritual side, but those are the things that can get you, those are the things that can ground you and really allow you to play the long game.
Tom, you couldn't have teed that up any better. I got like little goosebumps as you're talking, because all we do is business consulting and coaching for very highly successful entrepreneurs. And we have this thing called the peak performance pyramid. And as you come down the pyramid, there's 4 pillars, and it's the business and the finance and the investment piece, which everyone, of course, is focused on. The other 3 pillars: body, mind, relationship. If you don't have a body to perform at the peak in the boardroom, you're going to suffer. If you're not taking care of the mind, if you're not feeding it new information, if you're not meditating, if you're not growing it, it's not going to work. And the relationship side, which all the entrepreneurs where we initially start working with them are like, relationship? What's this? I said, look, and everyone goes right to the wife or the husband. I said, yeah, that's the obvious one, right? I mean, if you fail in that, there's half the assets gone and a lot of hurt and pain. But I said, relationship with yourself, relationship with your customers, relationship with your team, relationship with your creator, if that's applicable. Any human being, what are you doing to nurture those relationships? Because that's the juice of life. When you have a solid foundation of mind, body, relationships, and business, then you've won. So thank you for teeing that up, Tom. It was a pleasure to have you on. I could go for hours and hours here, but
same here, Thor. I appreciate it.
Hopefully I know the audience is going to get a lot out of this episode, and I really, really appreciate you being on today. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Thor. I'd love to come back sometime.
Done. Thank you.